Okay.
Good morning. Good morning. How's everybody doing? Atam Sena.
Good morning. Good morning, T. Welcome back. Thank you for being here. I'm happy to be here myself.
Thank you. The same here. Glad to be here, and there's a lot to cover today. So,
There's a
time.
lot to cover. Let's get right to it. And I do want to acknowledge that for those our viewers who gave us a comment from last week, thank you very much. And I'm happy that to know that this weekly briefing is helpful. What's happening within, especially within the Oromo community, and then in terms of the international community aspect, what's happening in Ethiopia. I don't think we do enough coverage of in English where people outside of Oromo circle can understand what's going on. Let's dive into it. See, I think we have a lot of things on our quickly to cover up the next 30 minutes. And yes, I don't know where do you want to start.
Yeah.
You unmute T. You got muted back.
Yeah. A lot of topics to cover. Things are happening very fast, and at the same time, some of them are related, connected. So we might put things together. For example, we heard about the rate of the Ipsos residents. That to me is tied with the fact that the government has labeled TPLF and Shane a terrorist organization. I think we should start from those two topics, and then uh,
Right.
and then we go forward to others. To tell our audiences, uh, if time allows, the rest of our topics would be we will probably talk about the killing of some political figures and police commissioner, and we'll talk about also election if time allows. So
Yep.
without further ado, let's talk about the raid and then also the labeling of organizations. Back to the future.
Uh,
uh, you
yep.
take it.
Yes, thank you, T. I think I'll get right into majority of our audience might not know really who is this political figure who have been, under constant and Indian threats since he has returned back to Oromia. So we're talking about Dawid Ibsa. Dawid Ibsa is a chairman for Oromo Liberation Front. Liberation Front came to existence in 1970s right after lots of African countries became a free outside of the Western colonization, where the Oromo people are colonized. So Oromo Liberation was born around that time. There is ONLF, which is Somali People Liberation Front, Tigray People Liberation Front. I think you kind of combine both of them, which is very good because they go together. In 2018, well, before we got to 2018, actually, because of the youth movement in Oromia between 2014 to 2018. Abiy, came on the back of the youth movement, and he was selected to lead the transition. Abiy was not a known figure at the time. Lama Magarsa was the Oromia president, but Lama Magarsa he kind of stepped down to allow Abiy to become the chairman for the party, which allowed the chairman to represent the Oromo people. He was selected to lead transition to democracy. So he's supposed to be in power for 2 years. During that process, just oversee democratic process to take place in 2020 supposed to be an election, which obviously Abiy postponed it for its own political purpose. 2018, OLF returned to Ethiopia just like any other party. They were welcomed by millions of Oromo from around the country. Nothing they have seen. That kind of shook the government or PDOs. That shook obviously those Mahara leaders who had their own agenda in place. And today, that chairman is we don't know whereabouts of his safety, his well-being. 2 days ago, his house was raided in the middle of the night around 9 p.m. Security force showed up. They could have called him to the police station. They could have sent in a letter. They could have done anything. This man is an older gentleman. So I don't understand why they had to go through that trouble in the middle of the night, try to bang the door, and terrorize people, terrorize him. And as an older man, that he have health condition, and he have little kids and families living with him. and they, according to a lot of from OLF public relation office, they have beat the security, removed, arrested the security, but we don't know where about it. And then right with it, you mentioned about the day before the raid happened 2 days ago. The day before, Shanae, initially they call OLF Shanae. I think they're referring to OLA, which is the armed struggle of a little bit separate, and TPLF as a terrorist organization. It's very interesting when the world is calling for dialogue that Ethiopian government will go to extents to label these people as a terrorist, and it's obvious only for a purpose of that they are labeled terrorists, therefore they can negotiate with them. And he is using the member of parliament, he's using the illegal law because his time expired last October. He's not legitimate. First, to begin with, he's not elected by the people, even under fake election. He was not. He was selected. Second, even though selection period ended in October 2020, he's in power outside of his duty by force. And he goes outside, not just him, the whole party, the whole parliament system is their time is gone. They're not legitimate to be governing. And outside of that, he's using those parliament to literally extend his time in power to continue terrorizing, especially the Oromo people, which are the greater threats to him. So it's just like he just kind of dimmed the small chance of dialogue that could possibly happen in transition the country to hopefully some type of stability. Because at this point, there's nothing under the sky that could save Ethiopia beside dialogue. Every party, from Gumuz to Oromos, to Tigrays, to every party have to come together and decide what do we want as Ethiopian. It is independent, this country, because even if we kill each other for the next 1 year, at the end of the day, we have to come together. We have to have a dialogue. Dialogue, there is no alternative. There is no way around having dialogue. So by Abiy labeling this two prominent oppositions, you could say, OLA is an opposition. They've been in armed struggle for a long time, and then TPLF, the party that governed the country, looted the country and governed the country through force for 27 years. And mistakenly, I think one of the mistakes TPLF did is when they left their power, and instead of empowering party like OLF and OFC and other parties, they kind of gave the power to Opedios. So these are the homegrown terrorists. They are used to being told what to do. They're not used to being leading. So they brought, the worst type of leader. And right now, we're here where thousands of people have died, millions of people have been displaced, and the country is on the edge of civil war. And the world's pushing, and then we didn't talk about it. I know we're going to talk about during the election, about the EU publicly announcing that they're not going to observe the election. But anyway, let me let you have a comment on that, T, before we get to the election.
Sen, I think you did a beautiful job of kind of breaking that down. But there's a whole lot to unpack here on those two topics. If you guys remember, in I think October of last year, when the similar kind of raid happened at the residence of now prisoned Johar Mohammed, it's kind of, to me, has some sort of similarity. But I think the message that the government is trying to send is 2019. Thank you, Zaina. 2019. They raided the house in the middle of the night, no announcements, and the message is clear. The message is saying, if you're trying to oppose the government, if you're trying to run opposing the government, then we will do whatever it takes to stop you, including intimidation, including prisoning, including killing. I mean, they have done all of that. They've done every measure it takes to stop every opposition from participating from the upcoming rogue election, whatever, if you call it election. And this is their way of trying to stop other groups and individuals from opposing them and bringing the opposing voice. Now, it's very strange that they're doing it at the cover of a night, and it's very ugly how they're conducting it. But I'm not surprised because they've done it before. Now, the other thing is, for me, those are the kind of things I define as terrorism. So when they are labeling other groups terrorist, I would like to ask the question: who is the terrorist here? Um, the 2009 proclamation, anti-terrorism proclamation, as the whole world now knows, was the way of intimidating and imprisoning peaceful people from participating in the political climate that the TPLF were using. And this government admitted that and released all prisoners from the past and trying to adjust the anti-terrorism law. And all of this, now they're taking this back to the future. I don't know how to describe it. We're going back to the same practices. We're going back to the same practices where we're trying to eliminate people by labeling them terrorists. And they and you don't level. I mean, they're doing everything backwards. Also, it'll be a little bit legitimate if they label TPLF terrorists before they go to war against them by bringing Eritrea and other groups. But now they kill them, they abuse them, they do whatever they can, not only in Tigray region, but also in Oromia region. And then after they're done doing all that, after they do all the terrorism that's there to do, they turn around and label the victims terrorists. And this is just also the group Shani. I don't know who Shani is. They don't even say. Back in the days, there used to be that Ollaa Shani or something Shani. Now they just say Shani. This is just an attempt to make the name Shani itself just stand on its own and be a bad thing. Just like how it was being Oromo, just the name Oromo used to be a bad thing in Ethiopia. So this is just a political game they're playing, but they need to stop playing this political games while people are dying on a daily basis. They don't know how to govern. The only way they know how to do these things is just by killing, intimidation, things like that. But that's not how you lead a country, let alone how you run an election. So they don't even have the basics of leading a country. That's what I would add to what you said, Sena. But you've hit the points on this.
Thank you so much, Steve. So I agree with you. I think as the only hope of stability, and we want our audience to know that we are very concerned. Obviously, Ollaa is very concerned, monitoring the situation in relation to Dawood Ibsa, the chairman of OLF, and not just him. It's just the whole surrounding, the way the Ethiopian government is handling the political prisoners, individuals, just a peaceful, innocent civilian that are being killed in Wallo and Wallagga, especially those two areas, and throughout the country that are being targeted in Wallo, Wallagga area by Amhara Regional Force, who have committed ethnic cleansing in the Tigray, now doing the same thing. We have the Eritrean soldiers in Wallo. They were there and were like them. So we asked the Ethiopian government and the international community, when you are talking about Tigray, when you are talking about Ethiopia, you must include and focus on the situation that's happening in Oromia. There is no escaping, there is no going around to bring stability in Ethiopia without having without addressing the issue of Oromo. So I think that's very important. And the issue of Oromo is interlinked with the individuals like Dawood Ibsa, Jawar Mohammed, Bakala Garba, obviously, not to mention Dr. Marara, and so many other people, so many other victims, young women being raped in prison, being impregnated in prison. The atrocity is just endless. But anyway, so we keep them in our prayer, and let's move on to the next thing. T, I'll get your take in it. Let me jump right into this is very interesting.
Yeah, but before you go, Sena, I just want to make sure that we want our audience to know that Ollaa has reported many times, there are a lot of individuals that have disappeared and that we don't know where they are to this day. I mean, we've reported, if you guys go back to some of our reports from the past, you will see that this practice is not really a one-off. It's been a common occurrence where they take people and we don't see them ever again. From the Basaguyo it's just about the Basaguyo. This is a continuous thing. It's been happening for a long time. So I just wanted to add that, Sena, before you go to
that. That's so very, very important because that really kind of take us to the next topic I was going to bring up and get you on a point on is the police commissioner that is said to be sick. He was removed from power, and next thing you know, he's sick, and next thing we know, he's dead. And like you mentioned, the disappearance of political prisoners, disappearance of officials is very common in Ethiopia, and especially for Oromo because you don't hear them. They just disappear. Nobody talks about. Ethiopian media is extremely biased. Ethiopian so-called Human Rights Commission is extremely biased. Ethiopian anything that exists under the name Ethiopia is always a code name for Amhara. And unfortunately, this has been the case. But for the first time, now Amharas are also tasting the blood. What's happening to Oromos? And I'll take your input in the commissioner's situation, and then also go ahead and take a shot on the other issue in terms of the disappearance of the train. There's so many people from the Basaguyo you mentioned to so many nameless people that we know from our own relatives to our own community members that being arrested by security for come home, picked up from home, and they're gone. And you don't even hear about them. And these are the people that we know in the media. There are thousands, if not millions of Oromo that had disappeared over the last, I don't know, 50 years, if not 100 years. I'll let you get that part, T.
I mean, Sena, you're correct. I mean, we when 2018, when the Kero and the Karre did the nonviolent resistance and got out to the street in masses, sacrificed some lives, or many lives, and they brought up this change. When that happened, even this government agreed. Mind you, this government is part of the past government, is not a new government. It's a transition government that was born out of the old TPLF government, so it's not nothing new. They said these prisons are full with people that are innocent or people that are politically prisoned, so they shouldn't be in prison. And they released many people. Now, we celebrated that. However, right now, there are more people in prison than there were back then. They rounded up everybody and put them back in prison. We remember when they start detaining everybody, prisons were full and they had to detain people in schools. And the atrocity that they're doing, I'm not surprised by the disappearance and killings of these high-ranking officials and people, influential people, because they have been doing it since they got in power. I mean, even before the large mass of the public start figuring out how this current administration is moving. I don't even know if I want to call them current administration because they're not elected. They're just there to put the transition, bring the reform and make sure that the next election happens, but they haven't done any of that. They wanted to lengthen their power. And to do that, they're saying by any means necessary, we're going to stay in power. So I'm not surprised by this high-ranking officials being killed, high-ranking officials being surrounded, raided, disappearing, detained, anything you can name off. I'm not surprised they're doing this because they're going to continue doing that if we're just going to allow them. So they got to be a process in place, an accountability that we have to hold them accountable for these things they're doing and make sure that when and if independent investigation happens, that all this are documented. So whoever is doing the investigation, not only look into the war crimes, not only look at the human rights abuses, but also the disappearance of individuals, the detention of individuals, the killings of these high-ranking individuals. And this is just, it's not, I mean, they're not the first one in history trying to intimidate and kill their way to power and cling to power. But the farther they do this, the warning that I give them is the more you conduct these things of killings, tortures, harassments, disappearances, rapes, and killings of not just high-ranking officials, but also the public, then the public one day will hold you accountable in a worst way possible. And the thing is, if you're discouraging people that are doing a peaceful resistance, nonviolent resistance, if you are killing those people, then what you're doing is you're not only legitimizing but also supporting armed resistance against your government. So that's one thing the Ethiopian government have to realize. And the same thing that happened in the past. All these liberation fronts, they happened because groups were requesting, were asking, demanding their basic human rights and their self-determination. And I'm not surprised, Sena, to say the least. I'm not surprised these things are happening.
Thank you so much. See, I'll do my two cents on that. Is that you're right. Those who make, this is the saying, right? Those who make non-violence impossible should expect violence inevitable. There are thousands of young people today joining TPLF, joining OLA throughout the country, and these are just the two major parties we mentioned. But there are other areas like in Southern nationality where the government have openly admit to losing the territory. There's a war, there's fighting, violence all throughout the country. So the government have made peaceful non-resistance, non-violence resistance impossible. Therefore, violence is inevitable. So we urge the international community as you know, we, by the way, I just remembered that if you have a question, please go ahead and write comments. And we just realized, and we only have about 5 minutes, that, you know, if we didn't address your question, sorry about that. We'll try to come back and remember next week, or if not, join us at the same time. I know we started about a minute or two late, so we'll try to wrap that within that time frame. But anyway, we urge the international community, if you think what happened in Syria affected Europe and thousands of other people around the world, or if not millions, what's going to happen in Ethiopia is going to makes it look like a child play, as the new envoy to Ethiopia had said. And we obviously, we are from there, where we feel the pain. You know, we live with it every day and every night. So we do care a little bit more, but nevertheless, it will have impact all throughout the region, throughout, you know, even the whole world. So we urge international community to take bold action and really speak up. You know what I'm saying? Abiy have gotten enough time, and I'm glad that he, you know, we're going to talk about the other part, how the international community responded. But I want to add one thing. You know, Iskender Naga came to New York to accuse Oromo Keros as a terrorist organization. Like, this guy's in prison. When I see him, I'll be disgusted. Everybody deserves a due process, justice. But he accused the very people who freed him as a terrorist organization. He shamed the whole Oromo. He said any young Oromo person, because any young under the age of 35 is young, according to the definition. It's a youth, are a terrorist organization. And now today, the Amharas, you know, who are paying heavy price, because Abiy went for Oromos first. He dismantled Oromos. He divided them. He killed anybody that stood. And then he used Amharas to attack Tigrayans. Now when he's done with the Tigrayans, he's coming back for them. The chickens are, you know, coming home to roost. So, and it is so painful. So what I would say is, like, late is better than never, I guess. As good, I'm glad, you know, that people hopefully realize this and rise up. I think at the end of the day, dialogue is the only way out. My people are frustrated. As Oromo, we are frustrated. Oromia is the only region in Ethiopia that hosts over 5 million Amharas, just pure Amharas. Yet Oromia is the one that accused of ethnic cleansing or being like anti-Amhara. I don't see Oromos in Amhara region, and the one that I see even within Oromo region are being slaughtered. I don't see Amhara protesting justice for Oromo people. So that pains me, because I grew up under this, dehumanizing us, calling us names, and removing a woman by the name of, I think her name is Hafiza. We're writing a story about her. Killed her child, a year and 7 years old, 7 months old, 1 year and 7 months, and then remove her breast. But anyway, let me end it there. And I think you're right. And Abiy is really using one group against another. And I call on the Ethiopian government. Dialogue is the only way out. We have to have a dialogue even with those we hate the most. because even if we're going to have separate country, we have to talk. So I think I'll leave it at that. T, I know we have about a few minutes.
Yeah, we have a few minutes. There's a question that came from the audience. It's not related to our topic, but I just wanted to correct one of our audience. Why can so-called Oromo elites come together, hands in hands? I just want to correct that. There's no so-called Oromo elites. There are Oromo elites. Let's not call them so-called. I just wanted to correct that. Why do they come together, hands in hand, to work on Oromo and Oromo struggle? That's, I think, a question for a different day. It doesn't fit within our topic, but we will take notes of that question and answer in a different day. But before we go, we have very few minutes. I don't know how much we should talk about the election, but I want to say a couple of things about the election. Because I don't even call it election, because election means to me is when you have choices to make from several different things. But this government has used this election as a tool, as one of the tools, the others being killing, torturing, war, civil war, and being together with the outside country to kill your own people. All other being one method, and this is the other method. Election is the other method to hang on to power for as long as they can, to lengthen their time in power, and which is the wrong approach to take. I'm telling you, the European Union has figured out that this is a sham election. The U.S. senators, the 5 senators, when they're sending the letter to the special envoy to Horn of Africa, they also called out that the election is a sham election. And the whole world and people of Ethiopia, the public knows this is not a true election. This is a sham election. This is just one other reason, one other method to hang to the power for as long as they can. But the thing is, for me, on the surface, this actually looks like the best way for them to attempt to stay in power with sham election than killing, torture, and harassment. But when you dig deep, this sham election is the same as the rest of the methods, because the consequence of this sham election would be even more dire than what we've seen thus far. The killings we've seen will be a child's play. Just like the special envoy said, the current situation in Ethiopia, if it continues the way it does, then this crisis in Ethiopia will make the Syrian crisis a child's play. That's why they called it. The whole international community knows. Now, I have a different take than what Sena said about the dialogue. If you want to hear about my take on that, you have to come on S. Juru's show on one of this week sometime at 11 p.m. to hear my other take, because it's going to be a little more extreme take. And if anybody knows me, I'm the proponent of nonviolent struggle all my life. But if that's changing for me, I'm afraid how much people is going to be, this thing is transitioning to a different thing. But Sena, this is something that I'll talk in a different area, not here.
Very good. We'd actually ban Ollaa for prohibit any type of extremism languages. So I'm glad the T show followed that.
But I'll tell you, what I'm about to say is not extremism. You know what's extremism? Extremism is banning with the teaming up with a foreign country and bombing your own people. Extremism is going to houses of people and dragging out the youth and killing them one by one. Extremism is raiding people's house at 9 p.m. with the cover of the dark. Extremism is burning houses of the farmer by the cover of saying there are armies in the forest. Extremism is every single thing the government of Ethiopia are doing right now is extremism. So I'm actually trying to change the definition of what extremism means. Extremism is what we're seeing from the government of Ethiopia. That is, to me, the extremism. If that's not extremism, what is? If genocide is not extremism, what is? If rape with foreign objects is not extremism, what is? If displacing 3 million people is not extremism, what is? If killing on a daily basis is not extremism, what is? If killing the elites, the PhD students, the PhD holders, the professors, the political leaders, the influential people, then what is? If killing the youth, the tomorrow, the future, is not extremism, what is? If you blatant attack of identity or Oromuma is not extremism, then what is? So to me, we're going to change the definition of extremism, but I will not do it on this Ollaa platform because we have standards of some of the things that we not have to visit as Ollaa as an organization. And that's
Exactly. Thank you so much, T. And if you want to hear and want to really learn, obviously this is a very passionate topic because I don't disagree with you. If rape is not extremism, if millions of people displaced is not extremism, if using foreign military is not extremism, I don't know what is the definition. Nevertheless, we believe in a dialogue. We believe in nonviolence, and we are calling into international community that the situation is getting dire. People are feeling hopeless. The only way is to take up arm and kill. My concern, we as Ollaa, obviously, is about we don't want a civil war in Ethiopia. We want nonviolence, peaceful. We want a dialogue. We urge the Ethiopian government since last year to have a dialogue, release political prisoners, allow people to freely express their grievances. There is true grievances. People have lost loved ones. People have lost leaders. So anyway, this is the election. The topic you mentioned is about the election. The election is obviously it's a sham election, and I'm so happy that the EU came out to say that they're not going to observe. So I just showed that at the end of the day, Abiy is spending the money he does not have. The money he does not have. He's barely begging the world to borrow money on this sham election, and what he wanted to get from it is legitimacy. And whether the Western are saying that, sorry, you don't even have to go that far, the election cannot be legitimized. That's what the five senators that signed out letter last week that came out, and that is there are many senators who are saying the same thing. And we expect and we urge the U.S. government to unanimously put straightforward a language that says it just like Europe. You cannot observe this election, and the U.S. embassy in Ethiopia need to stop giving this fake election training. There is no election that's going to take place. There have to be a national dialogue. We have to talk to each other. We have to really know what is it that we're seeking as a people. We've died for so long. Let me leave it at there. Thank you so much. Sorry we did not take a lot of your questions. Please continue to send us an email, imedia@Ollaa. Make sure to check our website. Make sure to follow us on for education purpose. We are on Twitter, Instagram, and we have a YouTube channel, as well as obviously our website, ollaa.org. We just inaugurated our new website, and that was under construction for a few days last week, and then it was being built for the last 6 months. We spent lots of hours. I want to thank from the bottom of my heart the person who worked on this. Her name is Luli. I'm not going to give her full name on this amazing looking interactive website. Anything you need, it is there. And this is not just even for Oromos. It can be anybody. If you care about human rights, if you care about just about humans in general, make sure you go to that website. Make sure to support us. Make sure to let us know what you cannot find that we should work on it. And the issue about Ethiopia is Oromos, especially, is so much is going on, so we cannot cover everything. We are an advocacy organization, so number one priority is our just about the policy, U.S. policy towards Ethiopia, which is going very good right now. And we're expecting a lot of news from Europe. We continually urge our Oromo community to use our website. If you are from Australia, from Canada, from Germany, whatever country, there is information there for you. This is what our website looks like. If you have a question, you can also write there. And that's it for me. Thank you so much. I'll see you guys next week.
I'll just clarify something I said earlier, just to everybody, the audience know. Ollaa is an advocacy organization. We believe in fight with the pen, fight with the dialogue, with peaceful resistance, nonviolent methods. And we believe that all of this action that we see from European Union and the US and all of those things are the product of advocacy and diplomacy. So I just don't want people to get wrong the position of Ollaa on that. I just want to clarify that before we leave.
That's very good. Thank you so much. All right. Have a good one, and bye-bye.